what victory feels like.
Imagine the world's richest man killing the world's poorest children with his policies. Imagine a grown man who complains about money being wasted on pediatric cancer research while he is the biggest welfare queen in history, getting $8 million a day in government subsidies for programs like SpaceX. What a fraud and a force of destruction. That's basically Elon Musk. This is going to be his legacy in the end. When you're openly a Nazi, when you're openly a racist, you turn Twitter into a right-wing cesspool, when you destroy government agencies that actually help the poor and the middle class, when you have absolutely the worst personality, when you do tons and tons of drugs which make you act erratic and weird and just like a bipolar weirdo, well, people are not going to like you too much. And by the way, Elon is not some genius who is simply misunderstood. He is a marketing con man who advertised himself to gullible people, and he knows little to nothing about actual, objective, scientific thinking. And for anyone who wants to learn the truth about this guy, you need to check out the channel Thunderfoot, which has done a masterful takedown of the utter fraud that is Elon Musk. In this video, I want to talk about the ideology that drives this guy's mentality. And the ideology that really the right wing, the authoritarian right wing, fully embraces: the DOGE rage, Department of Government Efficiency, and rage being retire all government employees. For those of you who don't know, rage is a concept that Curtis Jarvis came up with. He's a techno-fascist from that Silicon Valley area, all those weirdos, those tech bros who have a very weird ideology, which is basically neoliberalism and market fundamentalism taken to its utmost extreme. And this ideology is embraced by people like Peter Thiel, who was a mentor to J.D. Vance. First of all, let's break down DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. When these clowns talk about efficiency and government efficiency, they're not actually talking about real world efficiency or any kind of feasible efficiency that helps people, helps the average man. No, in their mind, it's actually market efficiency taken to its most extreme. Littered throughout the videos in this channel, I talk about how market efficiency is not the same as real world efficiency, and how the market is an extremely inefficient system because it's based on profit and turnover in sales. Well, what drives profits? What is the growth mechanism that drives the economy? What are the factors that drive growth and profit? Scarcity, inefficiency, and basically the opposite of sustainability. The faster products break down, the faster you can turn over sales, right? An iPhone, the phone that I have here, this phone is designed to break down after a certain period. So you have to buy another one, and then, turnover and sales grow, and that feeds into the economy, right? That feeds into the GDP. But this phone has precious minerals in it, like gold, coltan, copper, all these other things. It's just economically stupid and ridiculous to design things on purpose, which actually, as Jacques Fresco said a long time ago to me, it actually takes really good engineering to design things to break down, because you put little fail safes in your devices, in the cars, in the phones, the computers, everything that makes sure that they break down after a certain amount of time. So you have to throw them out and then go buy another one. If companies were forced to design products that last a very, very long time, they would collapse. They would not be able to turn over, and they would not make the profits they're making right now. So again, product inefficiency feeds into the market. So when we talk about like GDP growth and profits, soaring profits for corporations, they're engaging in waste, fraud, and abuse. Actual waste, fraud, and abuse. Capitalism is an inefficient system. The less things are in abundance, the more scarcity there is, the more money you can make off selling those products, right? Abundance, efficiency, and sustainability are the enemies of the profit mechanism. And so with that concept in mind, it's so easy to see that this concept called the DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, is meant simply there to maximize market efficiency. That is why they're attacking. That's why Elon Musk was attacking all these government agencies. They're trying to destroy Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, Meals on Wheels, pediatric cancer research, U.S. aid, which, by the way, dismantling U.S. aid has been reported to have caused the suffering, the immense suffering, if not death, of hundreds of thousands of people around the world. What Elon and his neoliberal fascist friends want is what Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher wanted. They want government to be very small when it comes to helping people, but government to be gigantic when it comes to helping the ultra-wealthy. It's socialism for the rich and brutal market discipline for the poor. The market is life-blind. It considers social programs that help the poor to be wasteful, while sales of military weapons that literally kill people are considered to be great for profits and for the economy. By the way, while everyone in the US is distracted from all the insanity of Trump's authoritarian measures and ICE raids and his big bullshit bill, other criminal activities by billionaires are ignored and forgotten, like how Elon's super AI computer in Memphis, Tennessee, called Colossus, uses massive turbines that produce horrible air pollution that has devastated the poor communities of Memphis, causing lung and heart disease among the working poor of its neighborhoods. And it should be of no surprise. This is the exact ideological framework of DOGE and neoliberal capitalist fanaticism. It does not value human life or the planet. The only value is what technology can do for the shareholders and CEOs of these mega corporations. Why are they dismantling all these government agencies? Because to them, it doesn't bring any profits. It's like, oh, it's a lot of money that's being put into here, put into there. It doesn't bring us any return on investment. That is the reason why they're dismantling it. That is the central reason. That's the core concept behind DOGE. It's actually the Department of Government Inefficiency, government waste, fraud, corruption. This is the most corrupt administration in history, the most criminal administration in history. And then going back to Curtis Yarvin's and Peter Thiel and their disastrous ideology.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit
Should
in this.
the human race survive?
They believe in having a market utopia where everyone is forced to fend for themselves and it's like a law of the jungle. Basically, competition rules above all. There should be no compassion for the poor. If somebody can't help themselves, they're just better off dead. That is their core ideology. Retire all government employees and then form a new kind of government, which is totally fascistic, a surveillance state where people are pretty much identified and like controlled through all kinds of algorithms. That's why they're investing so much money into AI, facial recognition. They're trying to set up a totalitarian dystopian future where you and I are controlled and the market god reigns supreme above all. And what does the market god mean? What is the invisible hand of the market? Is the 1%. This ideology serves the top like 1/10 of 1%, if not 1/100th of 1% of people in the world. That's why Elon Musk and 2 or 3 other people, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, they have more wealth than half of the United States population. And that's only going to get worse as things move forward with the Trump presidency, the Trump regime. It's not an administration, it's a regime. That is really what it is. That is what DOGE is, Department of Government Inefficiency. Any programs that help people, any programs that preserve the environment, right? Sustainability, renewable energy, these things don't bring as much return on investment as inefficient things like petroleum production, like pharmaceutical industry, giving pills to people, getting them dependent on drugs. All these patchwork mechanisms and all these destructive, environmentally destructive and socially corrosive tendencies and policies bring a lot of money. Elon's DOGE project is actually an expression of the invisible hand of the market, but it's not so invisible anymore, right? This invisible hand is simply the will of the billionaires and the 1% as they destroy government regulation that protects the environment and workers' rights, destroys programs for the most vulnerable members of society, while the Pentagon and Wall Street can carry on their destructive policies with total impunity. For example, the Pentagon has failed 7 audits in a row and cannot account for trillions of dollars, but Elon didn't even touch the Pentagon. And instead, Trump is increasing Pentagon spending by 13%, an insane 1.1 trillion Pentagon budget, all for an institution that is one of the biggest polluters on the planet, giving more money to the part of the government known for the most fraud and abuse, and dismantling government programs that commit little to no waste and fraud. And by the way, an insider from DOGE blew the whistle, coming out and saying that he found little to no waste, fraud, and abuse. Instead, he found government social programs like Social Security, Meals on Wheels, and Medicare to be quite efficient at helping the American people. The only waste is the waste created by our infinite growth, life-blind capitalist structure. The only fraud is the fraudulent behavior of the billionaire class and of Elon's companies. And the only abuse is Elon's abuse of the poorest people of American society. Let's face it. DOGE is one giant scam by Elon and his friends like Peter Thiel, who, by the way, have stolen the personal data of so many Americans, and who knows what they want to do with all this information. This is part of the larger agenda of the billionaire takeover of our society. Elon and his fake tech guru friends will go down in the history books as total frauds and some of the most destructive people to ever exist. Curtis Jarvis recently came out and renounced the Trump presidency, saying that what Trump is doing is leading to the collapse of America, and that he actually plans on leaving the country. But just like any good old right-wing fascist, he's not putting the blame on the system that he's advocating for. No, he's simply saying that it's not being implemented correctly, which is really a level of delusion that we should come to expect from these people. By the way, this anti-government lunacy was tried in Argentina. Javier Milei enforced libertarianism on steroids, which means massive cuts in government spending, massive deregulation of the economy, and austerity measures across the board. Milei, who is a free market fundamentalist, took a chainsaw to the regulatory state, claiming that an unregulated market can solve all social and economic problems. Well, the results were a predictable disaster. A skyrocketing of unemployment and poverty, and an unstable economy. Basically, when you elect a fascist, Israel-loving lunatic who names his dog Milton Friedman, expect the worst. And it's funny how this economic miracle needs to be bailed out to the tune of billions of US taxpayer money. Trump is sending billions of dollars to save Argentina's libertarian utopia while denying healthcare and basic needs to millions of Americans back home. And you know what's really funny about this now $40 billion bailout that's going to Argentina? Well, this bailout really proves to us that billionaires are really not smarter than the rest of us. They are not smarter than the rest of us. Several hedge fund billionaires invested into Argentina's future because they thought that it was going to be some miracle of economic progress or whatever. And guess what? When it failed, like the rest of us knew it would fail, they went to the one thing that they hate the most. The one thing they hate the most, the government, and asked for a bailout. They asked for a handout. I mean, it's a religion. It's a cult. The free market is really a cult. And our world is being governed by people who are fundamentalist, fanatical cult members of an ideology called the free market that really has no limits to how much insanity it can perpetuate. Real efficiency is the capacity for science and technology to do more with less, to provide food, shelter, the distribution of resources and social services efficiently, and accomplishing more tasks with less resources, energy, and manpower. This is why automation, AI, nanotechnology, and other upcoming scientific breakthroughs are actually great tools, as long as they are utilized under the framework of an actual economy. A real economy that does not focus on profits and economic growth, but rather real factors such as environmental sustainability and public health. The market can never, ever accomplish this. It's the most inefficient economic system ever conceived of. I just want you guys to understand what DOGE Rage really stands for. And that is why ultimately in a world where we have social efficiency, where we have less problems, no homelessness, less crime, less corruption, less environmental abuse, more abundance, in that kind of a world, the market would never be able to survive. Capitalism would not be able to survive in a truly efficient and abundant world. A real economic system is one that takes into account actually relevant measures such as public health and environmental stability. A world beyond capitalism does not value fake statistics like GDP and job creation, but rather real factors like human well-being, happiness, equality, social capital, and harmony with planet Earth. And in that kind of world, people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Donald Trump would simply cease to exist.